Most people fail to reach their goals not because they lack discipline, but because they are fighting their own identity. You can't achieve the results of a millionaire if you still think like a person who is afraid of risk. You can't have the body of an athlete if you still identify as the lazy one. Today, we are looking into the psychology of identity-level change. I'll show you how to stop trying to do things and start becoming the person for whom success is simply a natural side effect. The goal trap. Why focusing on having instead of being leads to failure. The goal trap shows up when you chase what you have instead of who you are. People set sights on outcomes, money, status, a number on a scale, and they assume success will prove their worth. Yet belief shapes behavior far more than wishful thinking. If you think your value comes from possessing, you treat actions as means to an end rather than expressions of a self that can endure. The mind shifts toward shortcuts, and effort becomes thinly spread over many targets, not a single durable identity. A simple scene helps. A person aims to be fit and says, "I want to lose 20 pounds." That is an outcome, not a self. When the scale moves or stalls, motivation follows the scale and the person drifts. Now imagine instead, I am the kind of person who moves daily, and the actions change. A 5-minute walk becomes a doorway, a short stretch after lunch becomes a habit, a stretch goal becomes a daily routine. The internal narrative begins to rewrite itself. It starts with small truths that the mind can accept. The costume of the soul is worn a little at a time, through tiny acts that signal a new role, not a distant prize. To shift identity, follow a few practical steps, kept simple and steady. First, name the future self with present tense language. I am someone who _____ today, not I will ____ someday. Then examine what beliefs you carry about yourself and test them against daily choices. If you want to be organized, you choose the first action you can take now, and you do it. If you want to be a calm solver, you respond to stress with one brief, deliberate breath and a plan, rather than a shout. The sculptor within you carves by carving out micro-choices that align with the new self. The internal narrative then reinforces those choices by telling a consistent story. You are the type who acts in line with the person you claim to be. Mistakes happen. The lure of having can pull you back, but the remedy lies in aligning belief with action. Reframe goals around identity, not possession. Build routines that require you to show up as the person you want to become. Surround yourself with cues that fit the new costume, reminders, partners who share the same self-image, environments that reward small, steady progress. Expect friction, practice patience, and keep a simple log of moments when you acted as your future self. Over time, the belief that I am this kind of person will dictate behavior more reliably than any external target. The path becomes less about chasing a trophy and more about living out the identity you choose. The sculptor metaphor, seeing your current self as raw marble to be carved. Beliefs shape what you do without you always noticing. The mind treats what you accept about yourself as truth, and truth guides daily choices. The sculptor metaphor helps here. Your current self is raw marble, unshaped and full of rough edges. The marble cannot decide its own fate, but it waits for a careful hand. A patient hand, guided by a plan, reveals form you can live in. Each small chisel stroke changes how you move through the day. The internal narrative is the voice that walks with you. It can say, I am the kind of person who stays steady, or it can murmur, I am easily rattled. Those sentences become habits if you listen to them long enough. The costume of the soul is the face you wear as you move through life. It is not about what you wear, but what you believe you are wearing on the inside. When you think you are not a person of integrity, you'll dodge small truths to keep that costume intact. When you decide to wear a braver costume, you start choosing honest words and honest actions even when it's hard. A shift in costume changes how you respond to a tense moment, how you greet a challenge, how you speak to others. To use this as a framework, start by naming the future self you want. Be simple. I want to be someone who handles friction calmly, who keeps promises to myself, who learns from mistakes without bitterness. Then look at the current beliefs that block that future. If the inner voice says, that's not me, you look for the evidence of the opposite. Small acts become the chisels. Pause before replying, write down a plan after a stumble, or choose a constructive path when a temptation arrives. Each action is a tiny cut that starts shaping the marble toward a clearer form. Visualizing the future self helps the brain practice the shape you are after, almost like rehearsing the sculpture's outline before a single stroke is made. Sharing your intention with a trusted friend creates a quiet accountability that makes the next step more likely. If a plan fails, Adjust, not the identity. You do not abandon the marble. You refine the tools and try again. Obstacles come from the old grain within the stone. Frustration, fatigue, or old habits push back. A Stoic approach keeps your gaze on the shape you want, not on the stone's stubborn texture. The internal narrative can be rewritten by steady practice. Notice a faulty thought, then gently replace it with a more accurate one. The costume of the soul can be changed by choosing consistent signals of the new self. Words kept, promises kept, small acts kept in sequence. The sculptor must stay patient, measuring progress in microsteps rather than dramatic leaps. In time, the marble shows a form that you can inhabit with less effort and less drama. The belief that you are becoming the future self is what guides behavior when momentum wanes, and that belief is reinforced by the steady care you give to each small adjustment. Self-narrative: how the stories you tell yourself create your physical reality. Your self-narrative shapes how you act because belief guides behavior. The facts of psychology say the brain tends to enact the stories it is told about itself, repeating patterns until they feel like weathered facts. The internal narrative is the quiet director of daily choices. If you tell yourself you are not a runner, you skip mornings. If you tell yourself you are a beginner, you lace up and try. The costume of the soul is the outward figure you wear as you step into any room, and it is stitched from your inner stories. Clothes change how you stand. The sculptor within you chips away at old beliefs, shaping the stubborn marble of habit until it starts to look like the future you want. Your actions are the chisel marks that confirm the new shape. When you carry yourself with quiet purpose, the world responds with small favors, like doors opening or people meeting your gaze with more interest. When you slip into old scripts, the room tightens and your voice lowers or shakes. The internal narrative can be a generous coach or a harsh critic, and the difference is the ink you use to write it. A practical framework helps turn a vague hope into a living identity. First, notice your current self-narrative in a calm moment, not in a crisis. Name the story you are telling yourself about who you are today. Then decide the target story that would support your future goals. Keep it simple and believable. Next, gather tiny bits of evidence from daily life that agree with the new tale. A small win wears the new costume and makes the old one seem pale by comparison. Rehearse the new script in safe places, in private practice, in front of a mirror, or with a trusted friend, until the words begin to feel like second nature. Change your environment so it echoes the new identity. Reminders, cues, and routines that reinforce the desired self. Build accountability in a way that helps, not hounds you. A gentle check-in from a friend or a simple self-check can keep you moving. Track what changes and let the story settle into action. Obstacles will come. Fear will knock at the door and lie about the price of change. When that happens, remind yourself that belief is a choice you practice, not a verdict you receive. If you stray, return to the last clear step and adjust, not abandon. The aim is consistency over intensity, small steady chisel marks instead of a single grand sculpture. Stay honest with your values and let your actions align with them. The truth is practical. Belief dictates behavior, and behavior slowly shapes reality. The more your inner tale matches the future you want, the more your body starts to move as if the future is already here. Begin today with a simple move. Write one sentence about your future self in a way that feels true now. For example, I am someone who speaks clearly and listens fully. Then pick one micro-habit that supports that identity and do it today, not tomorrow. It could be a 2-minute reflection on a daily moment or a single public step, like delivering a short thought to a trusted listener. Keep it small, repeatable, and consistent. Each day, your story gets a little closer to the reality you want, and your body follows. The costume of the soul becomes less a disguise and more a natural mode of being. The sculptor's work shows up in steady, quiet hands and a steady voice. Cognitive dissonance: why your brain sabotages actions that don't fit your identity. Cognitive dissonance is the mental ache that comes when you act in a way that does not fit how you see yourself. The brain does not like two stories in one head. The sculptor inside you chisels away at the old belief or shapes the new action. The internal narrative is the story you tell yourself. The costume of the soul is the clothes you wear in daily life. Belief dictates behavior, and you live most by the stories you accept as true. When a person wants to be fit but skips workouts, a tug begins. Each skipped session makes the image of a fit person feel false. The brain looks for a quick relief, sometimes by shrinking the goal, sometimes by finding a reason to delay. A simple truth remains: your actions are not strangers to your self-image, they are its footprints. A small error can bloom into a steady pattern if you tell yourself a softer tale about who you are. The tension is not cruel. It is a signal that your current costume no longer fits the scene. Here is a way to move from one identity to another without breaking you. Notice the split between what you want to be and what you do. Name the two parts in plain language. Then craft a new basic story. I am someone who takes care of my health. I am someone who shows up. Start with tiny steps that the future you would applaud. Do the next action that a person who values health would do, even if it is small. Repeat. Rehearse the story you want to live by and let the actions confirm it. When you fail, tell a new, kinder line to your internal narrative instead of tearing down the entire story. The sculptor works best with steady, simple tools. Focus on what you can control. The next step is a choice, not a cosmic verdict. Let discomfort be a guide, not a judge. Picture the future self clearly, not as distant glory but as a present partner you can talk to. Speak to that future self as you would greet a trusted friend. Share a plan aloud, or write it down, and then honor it. Public commitment can help, even a tiny one. Lay out your shoes by the door, set the alarm a few minutes earlier, tell a friend what you intend to do. These tiny changes reduce noise in the brain and let the new story breathe. Using the costume of the soul helps seal the shift. Before bed, imagine shedding the old costume and waking in the new one. The night air is your mirror. The morning light asks you to act according to your chosen identity. Keep a brief journal of moments when you acted as the future self would. Note the times you talked yourself into delay and the times you chose action despite fear. In time, your belief begins to follow your behavior. Belief does not run ahead of you. It grows where your small, reliable actions plant it. And so the future self stops being a distant idea and becomes a present friend you choose to become. The evidence list. Building a paper trail of small wins to prove your new identity. Small, verifiable actions accumulate into a new sense of self. Belief dictates behavior, and when you tell yourself you are the kind of person who follows through, you start showing up that way. The evidence list is a simple tool for gathering proof through tiny wins. Think of the future self as the sculpture in waiting. You are the sculptor, and you chip away with clear, modest blows. Your internal narrative, the words you tell yourself each day, will either endorse or erode that shape. The costume of the soul is what you wear as you act. Each small win adds a thread to that costume, making it sturdier and more convincing. To build it, first name your future self in plain language. I am the kind of person who handles tasks with calm, who keeps promises, who shows up on time. Then choose micro wins that prove that identity in observable ways. A list of entries might include waking at the first sound of the alarm, tidying the desk for 5 minutes, writing a small amount toward a project, sending a quick update to a colleague, taking a short walk before lunch, reading a page or two relevant to your goal. Each entry must be specific and doable today. Keep a simple ledger, date, action, and a short line on why this proves the identity. For example, date, today, action, woke at 6:15 and got moving. Why, proves I am the type who starts the day with action. Use the ledger to tell your story. The internal narrative should read like a slowly growing script. I am becoming the person who keeps small promises. The costume of the soul grows richer as you add threads, a belt of discipline, cuffs of consistency, and a hem that holds steady under pressure. When you slip, treat it as data. Add a small win tomorrow to repair the fabric and keep moving. The sculptor works with steady rhythm, not flashy bursts. Identity shifts through repetition, not through a single grand act. Each entry reinforces the belief you want to inhabit, so behavior begins to feel familiar and natural. Examples across domains help make this concrete. In health, a daily 5-minute stretch or a 10-minute walk is a win that says, I value my body and I act on that value. At work, a timely reply to an email or a brief, clear update shows you are the kind of person who respects others' time. In relationships, a short note of appreciation or a consistent check-in proves you value connection. In learning, a small habit like reading 2 pages or summarizing 1 idea a day makes you the kind of thinker who tends to progress. In finances, logging expenses or paying a bill before it's due shows you are the sort of person who holds steady over time. The evidence list turns intention into routine, and routine into identity, until the future self feels less like a distant idea and more like the person you already are becoming. Identity rituals, using daily actions as votes for the person you want to become. Belief guides behavior. When you act as if a future self is already true, the belief gains weight and your days tilt toward that version of you. The internal narrative shifts you from I am trying to I am becoming. Small daily actions become the votes that seal a new identity. The sculptor inside you shapes the person who will stand at the horizon, not by grand speeches, but by steady taps of daily effort. The idea is simple. You vote with every action, and repeated votes form a new personal constitution. Identity rituals are the daily actions you perform to vote for the person you want to become. Each act is a concrete signal to your mind that the future self is real. The costume of the soul appears when you dress, move, and present yourself as the person you aim to be. A rushed morning becomes a ceremony if you clasp your running shoes, pour water, and step outside as if you already belong to a healthier life. A writer's ritual might be to open a notebook the moment you wake and write a page, even when fear sits heavy. A student's ritual could be to review a single concept aloud for 5 minutes before bed. The ritual is not the goal. It is the method by which belief leans toward behavior and then settles into identity. A practical framework helps turn identity into daily practice. First, name the future self clearly. Who exactly is this person you want to be? Right down to habits and tone of voice. Second, translate that image into a handful of simple rituals, ideally 2 or 3. Third, design the environment so the first action is easy and the friction to quitting is high. Leave running shoes by the door, or place a water bottle on your desk, or set a timer for 5 minutes of focused writing. Fourth, make some commitments public or recorded in a tiny, harmless way so you feel accountable without pressure. Fifth, track the outcomes in a basic, honest way. Yes or no on each ritual. No drama, just data. Sixth, revisit and adjust when a ritual stops voting consistently, swapping in a clearer signal for the future you want. The point is steady, repeatable signals that fold into the body's routine. Consider concrete examples across realms. If you want to be a healthier person, your votes might be: rise at a fixed time, drink a glass of water before coffee, walk 10 minutes after meals, and cook one simple vegetable dish per day. If you aim to be the kind of writer who finishes work, your rituals could be: open the notebook for 5 minutes straight after lunch, write a paragraph before checking email, and save your draft with a timestamp that keeps the future in view. For a professional stance, you could adopt a morning planning ritual and a post-work review, letting the costume of the soul show through in the way you speak in meetings and the pace of your emails. The core is not the exact acts but the consistency of acting as if the future self is already here. Resistance will appear as the old self clings to comfort. You might skip a session, argue that a rule is too strict, or dream up reasons to delay. When this happens, return to the simplest anchor, one reliable ritual that requires nearly no mental energy to begin. The internal narrative can be rewired by small truths told aloud or written down each day. I am the person who shows up. I am the person who completes what I start. I am the person who keeps the promises I make to myself. Over time, these statements become part of the inner weather, and belief follows behavior into steadier ground. The costume of the soul wears a little more like real clothing, and less like a borrowed mask. Through these rituals, identity shifts from wish into pattern, from possibility into a daily practice truth. Stoic detachment: how to let go of the old you without feeling like a fraud. Belief shapes behavior. What you believe about yourself shows up in your actions every day. The old you is a story you tell about yourself, and stories can change. Stoic detachment helps you step back from that story and see it as a temporary costume, not your final form. The sculptor is the mind that shapes you. The internal narrative is the script you replay. The costume of the soul is the clothes you wear in your own mind. When you see the old self as a chapter that can be rewritten, you begin to move toward the future you want. Begin with naming the old self and the habits that keep it alive. Then describe the future self in plain, concrete terms. Ask what belief would support that self's actions. Let detachment do its work by seeing the old self as a costume you are wearing, not the core you. Choose a small action that the future self would perform and do it. If the future self is someone who shows up on time, arrive a few minutes early for one meeting this week. The goal is not perfection, but steady alignment between belief and behavior. Your internal narrative is the script you tell yourself. Rewrite it in the voice of the future self, not the fear voice of the past. Say to yourself, I am growing into someone who can start small and finish what I begin. Picture a moment when you do the next right thing and hold that image briefly in your mind. The moment you notice a fraud feeling is not a sign of failure. It is a signal that you are stepping into new ground. Keep a simple log of one win each day, no matter how small, and read it like a tally of progress. If a stumble happens, treat it as evidence you are learning, not as a verdict on who you are. Daily practice is a steady chisel. Morning. Repeat a one-sentence belief that fits your future self, and plan a tiny step you can take today. Then act on it, even if your nerves shake. Midday. Pause to ask what the future self would do in the current moment and adjust your path to match. Evening. Write a short note to the future you, describing what you did and how it felt wearing the new costume. Over time, the costume of the soul becomes more fitting, the internal narrative becomes kinder, and the old you loses its grip. The path is simple. Believe in the future self, act like that self, and let the rest follow. Language shift. Changing I'm trying to I am and why it matters to your brain. Fact. Words shape what you believe about yourself. When you say I am, you plant a flag of identity. The brain then acts in a way that fits that flag. If you tell yourself you are a runner, you start to notice when running fits your day. If you say you are trying to run, the brain hears a plan with a pause, a form of hesitation, a path that still feels optional. Belief dictates behavior. The internal narrative is the story you tell yourself about who you are. The story becomes the map your feet follow. If the map says you are someone who finishes what you start, you walk with more steadiness. If the map says you are still figuring it out, you drift between small starts and quiet ends. The costume of the soul is the look you wear in daily life. It is not a garment you borrow from others. It is the clothes your habits stitch for you. When you switch from I'm trying to I am, you pull on a different costume. That costume fits differently with the shoes you wear, with the doors you open, with the promises you keep. Here is a practical way to shift your identity toward your future goals. First, notice your daily speech and inner talk. Catch the moment when you say, I'm trying. Then swap it for an unmistakable present tense statement that fits the feeling you want. For example, replace I'm trying to be healthy with I am someone who walks a little every day and makes one good choice for health. The change is small, but its effect is not. The brain reads the new line as a declaration of who you are, not a plan you might forget. Second, back the words with tiny consistent actions. The idea is to let the actions prove the identity you claim. A person who says I am a learner keeps a small daily practice, reads a page, writes a note, or completes a simple exercise. The routine becomes evidence in the internal ledger. Third, slow the drift by tying the language to concrete situations. If you have a goal at work, say I am a reliable teammate who finishes tasks on time. Then finish the task, small and steady. The internal narrative grows sturdier when words meet consistent deeds. Fourth, reflect without judgment. When you falter, remind yourself that progress is cultivation, not perfection. The Stoic sees the struggle, notes it, and returns to the line, I am who I say I am, with gentleness and focus. Consider a few clear examples. A person who wants to be fit might replace I'm trying to exercise with I am someone who moves daily. They then schedule a short walk or a brief stretch, not because they think they must, but because the new identity asks for it. A student aiming to study might shift from I'm trying to learn this topic to I am a learner who revisits the material. They then set a tiny study ritual, 5 minutes of review or a single flashcard cycle, repeated without fail. In work, instead of I'm trying to be on top of emails, say I am a person who keeps communication clear and timely. The result is a shift in behavior, fewer impulsive replies, more thoughtful messages, a calmer pace through the day. In relationships, I'm trying to be a better listener becomes I am a person who listens fully, followed by the simple act of putting down distractions and giving one person your full attention. The power comes from linking belief, language, and action. The mind loves coherence. When your words align with your actions, the internal narrative becomes a reliable guide. The costume of the soul fits more snugly, and the movements of daily life become less about force and more about fit. The shift from I'm trying to I am is a steady act of choosing who you want to be, then showing up as that person again and again. In small, repeatable acts, identity grows. In quiet moments, the brain learns to trust the line you speak. The path is simple. Tell the truth you want to live, then live the truth you tell. Success isn't something you get. It's something you attract by who you become. Identity grows from what you do. It is not a luck or a prize handed to you. It is the result of repeated actions that stamp who you are inside. The belief you hold about yourself guides those actions. If you tell yourself you are the kind of person who keeps promises, you begin to act in ways that keep promises. The sculptor works with small chips and steady hands. Over time, the rough stone becomes a shape you can recognize. Your days are the chisel strokes. The more you chisel with intention, the clearer the future form becomes. The internal narrative is the voice you hear inside. It can wound or it can steady you. It can say, "You are learning," or it can hiss, "You will fail." What you tell yourself matters because it steers what you do next. To shift identity, start by naming the future self you want. The future self is not a distant dream. It is a practical target you move toward with daily choices. Begin with simple actions you can repeat. The belief that you are this future self is fed by tiny wins. If your aim is to be the kind of person who keeps deadlines, you start by setting one small, doable deadline today. Then you meet it. The costume of the soul is worn in public as well as in private. When you wear the old costume, you slip back into old routines. When you try on a new costume, you try on new habits. The day you decide to show up on time, you become a person who shows up. The day you write down tasks and finish one, you become a person who finishes tasks. The link between belief and behavior is simple and stubborn. You act as you believe you are, and you come to believe the act. A practical framework helps this stick. First, define the future self in plain terms: who you are, what you do, and how you feel when you do it. Second, map daily actions that align with that self. Small, repeatable acts work best. Third, begin behaving as that person now, even if it feels awkward at first. If you want to be a reliable colleague, arrive a little early and say you will handle one small task today. If you want to be a healthier person, drink water at 2 fixed times and walk a short distance after lunch. Fourth, adjust your environment to support the new costume. Put reminders where you will see them. Put away the things that pull you back to old habits. Fifth, use your talking to yourself as a tool. The internal narrative should say, "I am growing into this," not, "I am stuck." Sixth, review and revise weekly. Notice what worked, what didn't, and which tiny actions created the most confidence. The idea is not to chase a single big win, but to assemble a steady stream of small wins that prove you becoming the kind of person who attracts success by being that person. The sculptor inside you is at work with calm hands. The internal narrative is the story you tell about who you are. The costume of the soul is the mask you wear when you move in the world. Belief dictates behavior, and what you believe becomes what you do. 1. Name your future self in clear, simple terms. 2. Notice the beliefs that pull you away from that self. 3. Tell a new story about yourself that fits the future you want. 4. Begin with tiny actions that match that self today. 5. Keep track, notice what changes, and let those changes shape your growing identity. If you're here, you're not finished with yourself. You're choosing to grow, to try, to test what remains true when you act on it. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to move, a little, toward the future you imagine. In that movement, the rock begins to feel softer, and the shape of who you are starts to emerge. Try this tonight. Write one short sentence in the present that names your future self, and add one small action you will take tomorrow to start wearing that costume of the soul. For example, I am the kind of person who reads a page a day, and tomorrow I will read 1 page. Say it, then do it. If you can, tell me in the comments what future self you want and what first tiny act you'll take. Hearing your own words helps the belief take root, and belief drives behavior. In the next videos, we'll dig deeper. We'll explore how to spot the sneaky beliefs that hide in plain sight, how to rehearse the future self in everyday life, and how to keep the new costume on when life grows loud. We'll build a simple map you can use again and again, so you can move from wishing to being, from what you are now to who you truly want to become.